Alright, so this study guide is on polynomials. Please try to do all these on your own before you get these answers. So first, number one, we're just classifying the following polynomials by degree and number of terms. So what I mean by that is whether it's a monomial, binomial, trinomial, or just a polynomial. So in order to classify this by degree, it has to first be in standard form, which number one is in standard form. Remember, the degree goes down. The degree goes down. When you're in standard form, you start with the term with the highest degree, and then you go down. So this would be a third degree, or a cubic polynomial, because that term with the highest degree is cubed. So it would be a cubic polynomial. And this would just be a polynomial, 4 terms, so it wouldn't be a binomial or a trinomial or even a monomial. This would just be a polynomial. Okay. Now remember, with terms, just a side note, with terms, and specifically with degree, remember you're adding up all of the exponents in a particular term. So for example, if this would have been 4p cubed z squared, okay, the degree wouldn't have been 3. The degree would have been 3 plus 2, which would have been a degree of 5, a 5th degree polynomial. Okay? So just in case you see that in your test, I don't think there's anything like that in your study guide. That was my mistake. But on your test, you will get something like that. So remember what we did in class. You have to add up all of the exponents. So 2, that would be a 4th degree. And that would be 2 terms only, so that would be a 4th degree binomial. 3, if you look at the first term, this is in standard form, right? The first term has a degree of 2, then the second term has a degree of 1. So this would be a 2nd degree trinomial, or a quadratic trinomial. But on the test, you could just put 2nd degree trinomial. Number 4 would be a constant. It's just a number. And this would be a monomial. Number 5, look at that first degree. I'm sorry, that first term, and it is a 1st degree binomial. You could put 1st degree binomial, or this would be a linear binomial. But again, on your test, if you put 1st degree binomial, that's okay as well. And last, we have just a single monomial, right? I hope you could tell that it's monomial. And that's 2nd degree. So you could put a 2nd degree monomial or a quadratic monomial. Alright, simplify the polynomials. All answers must be in standard form. So, here we're just adding 2 polynomials. So, because we're adding, we could just get rid of those parentheses. It would be 3y squared minus 4y plus 1 minus y squared plus y minus 2. And then, like you've been doing since middle school, you just combine like terms. So right here we have 3y squared and negative y squared. Right here we have negative 4y and y. And then we have 2 constants, plus 1 and minus 2. So you just combine all of those terms. 3y squared minus y squared would be 2y squared. Remember, when you're adding or subtracting polynomials, you just add the coefficients. You do nothing to the variables or their exponents. Then negative 4y plus y would be negative 3y. And then our 2 constants, plus 1 minus 2, that would be minus 1. So your answer would be 2y squared minus 3y minus 1. And that's already in standard form. This is subtraction, so remember, when you're subtracting, you have to distribute that negative sign or change all of the terms on the second polynomial, the polynomial that we are subtracting with, to their opposites. So this would be 2m squared minus 8m plus 2 Then that'll be plus, because this was a negative 3m squared, plus 3m squared minus 5m. Remember, we're changing all these to opposites because we're subtracting. And then that would be plus 7. And then once again, you just combine like terms. So here we have 2m squared and 3m squared. Here we have negative 8m, negative 5m. Here we have positive 2, positive 7. So this would be 5m squared. And the negative 8m minus 5m would be negative 13m. Then 2 plus 7 is 9. Okay, and again, this is already in standard form, so luckily for us, we don't have to manipulate it any further. All right, next, we're adding, so we're just going to get rid of the parentheses, so it would be 7 minus 4k squared plus k plus 8k plus 5k squared minus 7, and then you just combine like terms. Here we have a constant, and these two constants are going to cancel out. Here we have negative 4k squared and 5k squared, and then here we have k and 8k. Well, 7 minus 7 is 0, so that's just going to cancel. Negative 4k squared plus 5k squared would be 1k squared, or just k squared. Then we have k plus 8k, which would be 9k. And again, luckily for us, this is already in standard form. All right, we're subtracting this time, so again, we change all the terms in the second polynomial to their opposites. So this would be 6x squared minus 5x minus 4x squared plus 3x minus 4. Then once again, you just combine your like terms. Take your time when you're doing this tomorrow on your test. We only have one constant here. So 6x squared plus 3x squared would be, I'm sorry, 6x squared minus 4x squared would be 2x squared. Then negative 5x plus 3x would be negative 2x. And then we just have negative 4. That would be your answer. That's it. That's already in standard form as well. So 11, before we could add these two polynomials, we first need to multiply the monomial with the binomial. So we don't need to use FOIL here. It's just a monomial by a binomial. We just multiply that monomial on the outside by each of the terms on the inside. And remember the product rule when we're talking about terms, or when we're talking about multiplying variables, right? So the 3 times a 6, yeah, that's 18. But remember, when we're multiplying a plus a times a squared, we use the product rule, which means a 1 plus 2, because this a has a power of 1, right? Which would be a to the 3rd power. And then same with the other one. We have minus, well, 4 times 3 is 12. Then we're multiplying a times a, so that's a to the 1st power times a to the 1st power, which would be a to the 2nd power. And then we're not multiplying anything with b squared, so that would just come down. All right, and then that's plus 8a squared b squared minus 2b to the 3rd. Now we just combine like terms. Here we have an 18a to the 3rd. Over here we have a negative 2b to the 3rd. Here we have a negative 12a squared b squared, and here we have an 8a squared b squared. So first 18a to the 3rd minus, or plus 8a squared b squared. I'm sorry, 18a to the 3rd. I messed up here. These are not like terms. I'm sorry. That's an a to the 3rd and that's a b to the 3rd. I'm sorry about that. So let me put a different color underneath that. So there's nothing, we can't combine those two, so we're just going to bring that down. 18a to the 3rd. We can combine these two in the middle. Negative 12a squared b squared plus 8a squared b squared. That would be negative 4a squared b squared, and then that's minus 2b to the 3rd. This one is not in standard form, because if you look at that middle one has a degree of 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. So that middle term is going to be the one that has to come first. Negative 4a squared b squared. Then we have 18a to the 3rd and negative 2b to the 3rd. Those both are raised to the power of 3. Those both have a degree of 3. So when we have two terms that have the same degree, we put them in alphabetical order. So it'll be plus 18a to the 3rd power minus 2b to the 3rd power. That would be your final answer in standard form. where am I going here? Here we go. Number 12. Oof, we're already at 10 minutes, so I'll try to speed up a little. I might have to skip some of these. I don't want this video to be more than 20 minutes. So number 12, we have negative 2x. We're going to distribute it to each of these terms. This isn't FOIL because it's just a monomial with a binomial. All right, so I explained earlier how to multiply two variables. If you forgot, just rewind back to that problem. I'm going to do this a little faster. So this will be negative 2x to the fourth plus 12x to the third minus 12x, and that's plus 4x to the third. And remember, you change, for subtracting, you change everything to its opposite. So minus 5x to the fourth minus 10x. Then you combine like terms. And you get, well, negative 2x to the fourth minus 5x to the fourth would be negative 7x to the fourth. Then we have plus 16x cubed, and then minus 22x when we combine all those like terms. And this is already in standard form. Let's go on to 13. Two binomials, we use the FOIL method. So FOIL, first, F stands for first, O stands for outer, I stands for inner, and L stands for last. So first terms would be x times x, which would be x squared. Outer terms would be x times 6, which would be 6x. Inner terms would be negative 4 times x, which would be negative 4x. And last terms would be negative 4 plus 6, which would be negative 4 times 6, which is be negative 24. If we combine our like terms, we get x squared plus 2x minus 24. And luckily for us, this is already in standard form. I think I'm going to skip 14 just for time reasons. And let's do 15. Let's do it fast. First, outer, inner, last. So the first terms would be 5a times a, which would be 5a squared. Then we have, oh crap, I messed up. This is supposed to go over here. All right, then we have 5a times negative 4b, which would be negative 20ab. Then we have b times a, which would be plus ab. And then we have b times negative 4b, which would be minus 4b squared. If we combine like terms, we get 5a squared minus 19ab minus 4b squared, and this is already in standard form. And then squared, so you could just split this up, 7a minus 1 times 7a minus 1, and then do the FOIL method. All right, so that would be 49a squared minus 7a minus 7a plus 1. And if you combine like terms, you get 49a squared minus 14a plus 1. Okay. FOIL again. And if you remember those special rules that I taught you, I know we kind of rushed through them, but if you remember those special rules, you could use those special rules as well. But if not, just use the FOIL, and that'll always work as well. So that would be x squared minus 10x, I'm sorry, plus 10x minus 10x minus 100. And if you combine all the like terms, you get x squared minus 100. Luckily for us, that's already in standard form. 18. So 18. We're gonna have to multiply this binomial here by everything in that trinomial. So we're gonna have to distribute everything. So we have to do n times n squared, n times 4n, and n times negative 10. And then we have to do negative 9 times n squared, negative 9 times 4n, and negative 9 times negative 10. We have to distribute it to all of those terms in that trinomial. So n times n squared would be n to the third power. Plus n times 4n is 4n squared. So n times negative 10 would be minus 10n. Then we have negative 9 times n squared, which would be negative 9n squared. Then we have negative 9 times 4n, which would be negative 36n. And last, we have negative 9 times negative 10, which would be plus 90. All right. If you combine all the like terms, you have an n to the third here, and no other n's to the thirds. We have a 4n squared and a negative 9n squared, and we have a negative 10n and a negative 36n. n. All right, and if we combine all those like terms, you get n to the third minus 5n squared minus 46n plus 90, and this is already in standard form. All right, here's another one where we're multiplying a binomial by a trinomial, so you have to distribute everything. So that would be 12x cubed minus 15x squared minus 9x plus 20x squared minus 25x minus 15. If you combine like terms, you have 12x cubed here. You don't have any other 12x cubes. You have a negative 15x squared and a positive 20x squared. You have a negative 9x and a negative 25x, and just that negative 15 there. If you combine like terms, you get 12x cubed plus 5x squared minus 34x minus 15, and that is already in standard form. Now we're dividing. So remember, when we're dividing a polynomial by a monomial, we just divide each term of the polynomial. In this case, it's a trinomial, by 3x. So it would be 6x cubed divided by 3x. You need to remember the product rule, which is when we're dividing two variables, we subtract their exponents. So this would be 3 minus 1, which would be x squared. So this would be 6 divided by 3, which is 2. X to the third divided by x is x squared. Then we have negative 15 divided by 3, which is negative 5. And then x squared divided by x is x. And then we have negative 3x divided by 3x. That would just be negative 1. And the exponents will cancel out. Same with this. So we have 32 divided by 4, which is 8. All right, a to the 8th divided by a to the 3rd would be a to the 5th. And b to the 6th divided by b to the 3rd would be b to the 3rd. And then we have negative 12 divided by 4, which would be negative 3. A to the 5th divided by a to the 3rd would be a squared. And b to the 4th divided by b to the 3rd would be b. And then c squared, because we're not dividing that by anything. And last but not least, number 22, 7x cubed divided by x squared would be 7x. 4x cubed divided by x squared would just be 4. And then 2x divided by x squared would be 2x to the negative 1. Okay, I don't want negative exponents on the test, so remember what you do with a negative exponent. If you have a negative exponent, that's the same thing as just putting it over 1, or putting it in the denominator. So that would be the same as saying 2 over x. You'd have to do that on your test tomorrow, so remember that. Subtract this from this, okay? So that would be 5a squared minus 9ab plus 2b squared minus a squared minus 8ab plus 2b squared. So we're subtracting, so I'm going to change everything to its opposite there. So that would, and the second polynomial, so that would be negative a squared plus 8ab minus 2b squared. And then we just combine like terms. So if you do that, our video is already pretty long, so I'll just do it. 4a squared, and that would be 4a squared, that's cancel, minus ab. Should be your answer for number 23. Find the area of the shaded region, okay? So remember, in order to do that, it's the area of the outer rectangle minus the area of the inner rectangle would give you the area of the shaded region. All right, so how do you find the area of the outer? Well, remember, area is length times width, so that would be 5x plus 3 times x squared plus 4x minus 10. And that's minus the area of the inner rectangle, and that's what's going to give us the area of the shaded area. So that would be 3x times 2x minus 1. So first you do your multiplication, which hopefully by now you know how to do that. FOIL, actually this would, we would just distribute all that. We're multiplying a binomial by a trinomial. So that would be 5x cubed plus 20x squared minus 50x. Okay, I'm going to run out of space here. Plus 3x squared plus 12x minus 30. And that's still minus. And then 3x monomial times a binomial, that would just be 6x squared minus 3x. Okay, combine like terms, and you have 5x cubed plus 23. And I was talking about combining like terms with that first huge polynomial. 23x squared minus 38x minus 30. And then that's minus that second binomial, so we're going to change that to its opposite. That's negative 6x squared plus 3x. If we combine like terms, we get 5x to the third plus 17x squared minus 35x minus 30. That's it. If you're struggling with any of these, study your notes or come to tutoring. I think I did all of them except maybe one or two, and I kept it at around 20 minutes. Which is perfect. All right, tomorrow is your test. It's only going to be on polynomial operations, so make sure you know how to add and subtract polynomials. Make sure you know how to multiply and divide polynomials. Make sure you know what to do when you have a negative exponent. Okay, make sure you know how to classify polynomials as well. All that's going to be on your test tomorrow. All right, have a great night. I will see you tomorrow for tomorrow's test.